Hey everybody, this is Soph,
It's Rich
and we are from across the
from the
pond.
pond. Now, listen, the reason we're laughing and it's a bit shaky and he's a bit dodgy is because normally I'm the host and record everything. I've got technical issues, so Rich is totally in the driving seat today. I'm on my
Yes, I
phone,
am. I'm in the
not
driver's
my
seat.
laptop. So this is all new for him, me, us. So
Hey,
yeah,
we're taking turns. This dream team makes the, you know what I mean.
we're in it. We could have
Teamwork
said,
makes
you
the
know
dream
what,
work. All
we
right,
could have said we're not doing it, but we're here
the
still.
show
Can
must
you
go on. Technical
can you hear me
difficulties
all
ain't
right?
stopping us, huh?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
I should have asked you that before you pressed record.
I know. You see how she does me?
So,
Anywho,
what
how
happened
was
in
your
your week?
weekend?
Oh yeah, my weekend. Um, it was fine. Alfie come home. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Alfie's back.
We
Full
finally have
soldier.
company.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Alfie come back. We went to the river. Still no boats. This is the weird thing because of Corona. No boats are allowed to like moor on the river, so that's a bit odd. So he said this morning, "Can we go and see the boats?" And I said, "Yeah," but we got there. There's still no boats, so we just looked at the ducks, had a walk round,
So
and
it's so basically it's like a ghost town in the UK.
yeah. But there was people there. People are going out wandering around for fresh air or whatever, but they're just not allowed to park their boats on the river.
Let me ask you a question: are they wearing masks?
Some people are, some people aren't. You generally only have to wear masks in the shops here, but some people are wearing them out, and some people are wearing them in their cars when no one else is in there.
Now that's the only part I don't get. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm getting a little paranoid. So when I'm walking the street, I do got a mask on sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Because I think my masks are cute.
Okay, but what's the point in sometimes and not all the time?
Because sometimes I'll be in a rush and I don't feel like grabbing it. So I'm just telling you I'm being lazy. I'm just
Okay.
being lazy. But sometimes when I see a bunch of people, I'm not a big crowd person anyway. So when I see a whole bunch of people, I go, oops, excuse me, let me put my mask on. I don't know you people. Especially when
Well,
I'm in Home Depot or Lowe's. I'll really throw a mask on. Well, you're supposed to anyway.
well,
Anyway.
exactly. But yeah,
Anyway, what's
apart
going on in
from
the news for you?
usual vaccination, nothing apart from that vaccine. And there is a few things I did find out, but uh, I'm gonna save them.
That's right. Save them.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
save them.
save them because next Sunday is what it's about, and it's gonna go down.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
saving them.
yeah.
I'm saving till
We
then.
got something juicy for y'all next Sunday.
Oh yeah, ripest peach ain't got nothing on this juice. I'm telling you.
He sure don't. I'm about to do something right quick.
Oh God, don't cut us off.
No.
Oh, you sorting out your light?
Yeah, I look like a ghost.
Listen, ghost in power. There's nothing wrong with him. So if you look like that ghost, then bring it on. Mm-hmm.
Tyreek. Anyway,
All right,
what went on
your
in my
weekend.
what went down in my weekend this weekend? Absolutely nothing. It's been a very relaxing weekend. I had a really horrible week at work, so I just took some time out for me and just relaxed at home. Watched a couple movies, watched a couple shows. So it was a
Sometimes you
quiet.
need to do that.
It was
Sometimes you need
fun.
to do that. You need to take 5 minutes out for yourself and just.
Now on the news tip, our new president he said he's hitting the ground running, and he's got a 1.9 trillion dollar package deal for everybody. It's got a little bit of everything in it, schools, um, vaccine, another stimulus. I mean, he's hitting the gate running. He's trying to do a 100-day mask thing, but he can only do it for federal workers and government workers. He can't enforce it for everyone. So he's just
Mm-hmm.
trying to get people motivated and wearing masks. He is not playing. And then they're asking him about the impeachment, and he's saying that they can do half days. half on, half off, half putting his cabinet in, and the other half of the day get that impeachment going. And I ain't mad at him. I ain't mad at it. Because something, like I said, something needs to be done. And now it's all coming out the woodwork. Now you got people on TV talking about, I came down there because Trump told me to, and he needs to pardon me because I
Oh
ain't
yeah,
doing it.
I watched a clip on some lady.
Yeah,
They
she was like,
showed
"Ooh, I ain't
her
going to jail."
outside the White House saying, "Woo, we're storming the building, blah blah blah." And then the next day, she's outside her own house with the reporters, and she's like, "I'm asking the president for a pardon."
Pardon me. Matter of fact, he need to pardon all of us
Uh
because
huh.
he came down there for the president. Too late. I told y'all, they just be following that man. I
This
find
is
it
what I think.
hilarious.
You
I
know
find it
what?
hilarious.
Regardless of the situation, you always have to be accountable for your own BS, and she is not. So
Mm-mm.
there
Well,
you
you know,
go.
somebody got to take the fall for it, but I ain't messing with the FBI and all them. They be on TV going hard at these people. I just be like, ooh, I'm
You're
glad it
just
ain't me.
you're just sitting there with your popcorn watching. Don't mind me, just watching.
I ain't watched this much news in my life.
Mm.
I kid you not. I'll be at the TV like this. As soon as I wake up in the morning, be like this. See it. Let's see what's going on today. So yeah, that's what's going on with me. That's what's going on with
Fabulous
the
though.
news and my weekend so far.
I just got to say, this feels so odd, like so odd. I'm
I
like
know.
tiny little head
I
in the
know,
middle of
but
the
guess what?
screen.
It's okay. It's only temporary, people. You know, it's only temporary.
Okay,
It just
so
lets you know that we're a team here. That's all it says. That's all
that's
it says.
right. And I hope you got that whiskey bottle handy because you're going to have to upload this show, and I know how your fuse is really short. So I hope you
Yes,
got some
because
drink.
I'm a caveman when it comes to these keys. I got that. I got that vulture method. Ooh.
That's right. And when I'll be saying, press this, press that. Oh no, don't do that. I'm doing it. I'm doing
I'm ready though. I came prepared.
it. Okay, so serious Sunday.
Today is Serious Sunday, and we are going to continue with parenting during the pandemic. I think last Sunday we just talked a little bit about our upraising,
Mm-hmm.
our parenting styles, comparing, and
I'd say more like our parenting skills.
parenting skills. Yeah, yeah, we can do that. But today we have our very first guest.
Oh,
Yes,
very
she is.
guess with his technical issues,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. Her name is Anjel Green. She is a counselor for troubled teens in high school. Uh, and I think lower level. We'll ask her. But we wanted to ask her, both of us wanted to ask her questions on how she's dealing with the pandemic during her job as well as parenting at home because I she has two young ones and I think she's homeschooling as well. So we get to ask her a little bit about if it's difficult versus going into the schools versus trying to keep up with her students virtually, and then how she's handling it, with two little ones at home and teaching them at the same time. So
Get in.
we're gonna introduce you to our first host. I said host, our first guest, Angel Green. Here we go. Let's see if she's gonna jump in here. Well, hello there.
Hello, how are you?
All right. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. So we are doing our second episode on parenting during the pandemic and during this whole COVID thing. And could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
About myself, well, as you already stated, my name's Anjel Green. I am a resident of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm a wife, a mother, and career-wise, I am a treatment supervisor, which is just a fancy name for a counselor. The reason why they call it treatment supervisor is because I work specifically with adjudicated youth, and that is students who are involved with juvenile probation or children and youth services.
Hmm. Troubled youth. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you a couple questions. First question, how are you holding up with the whole pandemic, with the whole opening and closing of the schools? How's that working out for you?
Well, it has been a headache at times. But like most parents, you have to wear many hats and figure out how to adjust quickly because you have little ones. For me, both in my house and little ones, even though they're not so little by age or even by height, in the schools, that are looking to you for guidance and they want to know what's going on. They're confused. Some of them are scared. And for me, I had to make sure that I keep my own personal worries outside of what I do professionally and as a parent academically to show them that we can triumph through all this confusion. I know for um, my students and even my own daughter, when everything first happened, she was in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from me picking her up at her school, parent pickup, and all excited, and
Mm-hmm.
how was your day at school, to all of a sudden getting like alarms on my phone that said that school was closed, and at right then and there, we didn't know what to do. At the time, my husband was working, full time and in person. I was working within my school, which, like I stated, is an alternative school and it's a little different. So when the regular public schools closed, we did not close at first
Mm-hmm.
because we're considered a treatment facility.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant that my husband and I both were to be out of the house with our child inside the house with no school.
Right,
So
right, right.
it had its challenges in the beginning, but we've learned how to adjust and kind of work through. Right now, my daughter is attending online school.
Mm-hmm.
Her school district opens back up with a modified in person schedule on the 25th.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure out if we feel comfortable enough to send her back. And as it relates to my job, we've been working on a modified schedule. Our kids are online right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to re-enter into the school, but then we get some COVID positive tests and we had to like go back home, and
Mm-hmm.
and we're actually going to look to reopen in person on the 25th with my students as well.
Oh, okay. Now let me do you have any questions for yourself?
Oh, I've got loads, but
Go for it. No, go for it. We taking turns. I
Yeah.
asked one question, you can ask the next one. Go for it.
my main question is, I wanted to know, do you think that the government have done enough for education and schools in this pandemic?
I believe that I believe, well, I think district to district, a lot of districts are really trying to pull their heads together and figure things out, but I think that the priorities were not in order. I
Okay.
think when last year when the pandemic hit, of course, I have to look at both sides. Put myself in their shoes. Like, what could you do? You have no clue what's going on. You have no understanding of the pandemic. As far as districts go, the government, they might have had some insight that they should have, in my opinion, been a little forthcoming with, so that we could have prepared. But they didn't do that, and so it left the school districts to figure out things in very little time. What really bothered me is when they tried to re-enter, though. In my opinion, they had the full summer to figure something out. And instead of opening up school safely and having a real full out plan, they concentrated more on opening up bars and restaurants and, having all these mitigations for those things. And schools were like, oh, yeah, we do have to bring kids back into school, right? Like, let's just open the doors. And it was a mess. So, no, I don't think that they had done all that they should have or could have, in the fact that they just did not prioritize what should have been the most important thing, which to safely figure out a plan, whether it be in person or not, for our districts.
Mm.
That sounds like pretty much the same here, to be fair. We had all our bars and restaurants open. They were the first thing after everything closed. And then, yeah, like you say, after the summer holiday, they were just like, okay, schools are open, off you go. So yeah, it's been a bit crazy here too. It's
Yeah.
funny to see that it's both the same, like across the pond.
Yeah.
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 Now, my question is, do you see a difference in the children that you're handling virtually versus one-on-one in the classroom? Like, you visit the classes, they visit the schools. Do you see there's more of a difficulty uh, doing it virtually versus going in and being, face to face with the students?
Yeah, I do think that a lot, especially for the students, the population that I work with, many of the students that I work with, to be honest with you, probably would not be labeled as much as behavioral issues if they were given more of a vocational, hands-on type
Mhm.
of learning process. Unfortunately, the district that I work in, mostly, they don't have a vocational school anymore.
Mhm.
So a lot of the kids that struggle with desk work or that are not necessarily looking to go straight into college or anything like that, they struggle with sitting at a desk, open a book, test, read. They struggle with that, and so they do better in smaller class settings where they can get more of a one-on-one help. And so my school provides that for those students,
Mhm.
and then out of nowhere that part is taken away. So
Mhm.
you have a bunch of teenagers who, people like to gripe on teenagers often, but even as adults, we can't stay away from our cell phones. We get distracted, or we have 15 different things going in our heads at once. And what we've done is taken our teenagers who are very, like, a microwave generation, who want everything right now, who don't want to really work hard most of the time, and
Mhm.
sat them in their houses where they have TVs, they got game systems, they got AirPods, they got cell phones, and we
Mhm.
want them to focus on doing their schoolwork.
Mhm.
Most of the time I'm spending, my time redirecting them. Get your
Mhm.
cell phones off, plug your laptops in, wake up, put a shirt on, just, and I'm like spending a large portion of class time redirecting them to do things that they don't have the capability to do when they're in a classroom.
Yeah. So
um
basically, I hate to cut you off. So you're saying basically you're spending most of your time getting them focused
Mhm.
on their schoolwork versus
Yeah.
when they were in a classroom, they already there. They knew exactly
Yep.
what they had to do in the classroom.
Hmm.
But now that they're working from home, a lot of them you're having to spend more time getting them focused. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And not only am I having to get them focused, but I don't have the access to get to them like I'd like to. Like, I'm very much, pulling from old school teacher methods where if you're not doing what you're supposed to do academically inside my building, I'm going to come to your house.
Right, right, right.
Especially with the kids that I work with, I want them to find the value for education. Most of my kids, they don't. Most of their parents maybe not have graduated from like the 8th grade. They didn't go to finish. They don't have any, they might have had the desire to finish school or the desire to go to some type of higher education, but maybe not the means or the opportunity.
Mhm.
So they're trying to push something. I'm trying to push something on the students that might be brand new to them. And that needs to be done in a face-to-face interaction. They
Mhm.
need to understand that I'm here to help you. I want to help guide you to learn the value of education. And that doesn't happen if I can't get to your house, or if I come to your house but I'm not allowed to go into your house to sit down and
Mhm.
talk to you, because we can't. It's a safety thing.
Mhm.
So it's been so much of a struggle that we've just had it. Like, we've had poor attendance all marking period long. Kids are just not showing up. So we're at the point now, it's like we're gonna wrap our building in bubble wrap and y'all are coming to school.
Right, right,
The
right,
thing is,
right.
though, we know how difficult it is, like, to work from home. Don't get me wrong. When you say to someone, "Oh, you're going to work from home," you think, "Oh, yes, no boss looking over my shoulder," blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But we ourselves as adults, we need motivating, and we get distracted easily. Oh, let me just watch an hour of Ellen or whatever, and then I'll come back and do my work. So
Yeah.
we know what it's like. So it's probably twice as bad for them. But the only other thing I wanted to ask, one of the other things, is obviously you're a teacher and a parent yourself. Do you think that there's been enough support for parents to, well, with homeschooling their children?
Well, let me say I appreciate your statement, because I know a lot of times people are not forgiving to our teenagers. You know, you admitting as an adult that, you know, even that at home trying to work from home, you get distracted. A lot of times people are coming down on our teenagers, and I like to give them a benefit of the doubt. So I appreciate you, you know, being transparent and speaking kind of like on their behalf too, because that is the reality for people, let alone our teenagers. But as it relates to parents, it's challenging. I know for our household, like, you know, we were blessed to have, you know, to have my husband be able to work from home so that I can go into work because I have to go into work. And so we were able to have my daughter, who is now in the first grade. She's 6. We have a 2-year-old son, and he's gone back to daycare, but that was a whole other challenge in itself. People were focused so much on grade school kids that they just were totally forgetting about that early education, that childhood early education, that you know, sharing, coloring. Like my son was going absolutely ballistic. But as it relates to parenting, like, it's a struggle for parents because some parents are dealing with kids in so many different grades. You got maybe like an elementary school child, you have maybe a middle school kid and a high school kid, and depending on how well you do in the subject, you might not even be able to help your child. You may be totally confused as to how to support your child in, say, you know, algebra might look different and you probably don't even remember these things. And so you're wanting to be able to support your child, but you have work yourself, you have deadlines, you have meetings you have to go to. And you know, as a parent, that could be overwhelming, especially when you know the value and the importance of education and you cannot provide that. There's a reason why teachers are important. It's a reason.
Not only that, even if you had children of different ages and you might have to work from home, majority of households have only got one computer. And if you're asking, or if we're asking our children to do homeschooling at home and asking the parents, can you work from home rather than go in? Those families that, you know, how can you expect 2, 3, 4 children to do their schooling online during the day and you to work from home when you only have one PC?
Yeah, and then you know, I learned I've always been computer savvy, but I've never paid attention to the amount of tethering and Wi-Fi and buffer, you know, all these back end things that go into having a household with everybody pulling from the internet. You know, there's the computers stall. You know, my daughter's teacher, God bless her, she's phenomenal. Like she's such a great teacher. You know, she's so creative with the young kids because again, you have 6-year-olds. You know, now we're dealing with a different situation. We're not dealing with kids on their tablets and on their cell phones and video games, but we're dealing with kids that shouldn't be made to just sit still and stagnant all day long because they're 6-year-olds. They have to go to the bathroom. They want to show you their new toys. They want to walk around the house with the tablet in their hand, you know. And her teacher is phenomenal, but there's been several times where, like, say the internet, the computer's freezing or stalling and the teacher's trying to teach and the kids are yelling like, we can't see you, we can't hear you. And it's disheartening because you can't do anything about it. And that's yet another day or another moment in time where they're not getting education. You know, they're not getting what they deserve.
Okay, my question is, you said you work within the inner city, am I correct? Inner city kids. I have a friend who is a counselor as well, and she was explaining to me that the district was, when this first happened, I think like beginning of like middle of last year, somewhere in there, and they were issuing laptops to kids. And my theory was you know, even though you're issuing out these laptops, some of these parents are not making the type of money to where some of these might not even have, you know, Wi-Fi. But then they had an argument where I don't want to put any names in it, but someone upper educational was like, well, you know, their parents got iPhones and stuff like that. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. You're giving these kids, inner city kids, laptops, knowing that probably half of them you're not going to get back. And then the other half, maybe out of 50, 25 of them actually got Wi-Fi at the home. So then they're just sitting there with a laptop and don't know what to do. So
Mhm.
my question to you is, how do you think the grading system now, being like you said, kids are not showing up, you're spending most of your time getting them focused. How is the grading system now working? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I was in class and had a hard time. So I can just imagine, a kid who really doesn't like school, having a hard time. He has you in his corner, but yet you go home and it's just like, and like you said, some parents, probably ain't even got to that student's level. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Got to their son or daughter's level, and they're asking for help, and their parent is like, I don't have a clue. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to figure it out. So how do you feel as far as the grading system for this year? Is it a is there a scale, or is there just, do they focus more on classroom participation versus like if they're going to pass this test, stuff like that? Do y'all have those type of discussions?
Yeah, so I wanted to go back to your initial statement talking about like the availability of having the internet and everything. And
Mhm.
so the school that I work at, we our students come court ordered. So they're court ordered through Dauphin County, and they come from different districts. So I have students that are from Harrisburg School District, still in Middletown, all over Dauphin County.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily just inner city kids, but at risk youth is what I deal with. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, a lot of them don't have a lot of monetary, tangible items. And, you
Mhm.
might just like Sophie was saying, you might have like one computer in a house. But so we issued out Chromebooks for our students. I know most school districts issued out like tablets or some type of
Mhm.
electronic device. But there's two things. So a lot of school districts did they did offer and open up, like I know Harrisburg School District, which is our like our larger inner city school district. They offered up free Wi-Fi, but you had to kind of be in the range of the school district. You had to like send your information in and then go back. The problem with that is that a lot of the parents in this Harrisburg School District, which is a huge school district, they didn't have their contact information updated. It's like a whole lot of backlog information. Like you're sending information to their houses, the wrong address, it's the wrong number, and so kids were starting school late, and a mess basically is what it was. And then when you're talking about professionals saying things like, well, parents have iPhones, and it's not that just because they don't necessarily have all this money that they shouldn't have things of luxury. Like, we don't have house landlines and things of that nature. So of course
Mhm.
they need a cell phone. They need a cell phone because they have children
Mhm.
in the home and things can happen. So that's secondary to what we're talking about.
Right.
It's the government's responsibility to make sure that these kids are getting an education. If you choose to have kids not go to school in person and you want to close things down, that means you choose to give funding to the school districts to make sure that they have what they need. The
Mhm.
other portion of it is you have students who cannot work on laptops. You have kids that have IEPs, you have kids that have physical and mental disabilities, and it is your
Mhm.
responsibility to still make sure that they have the same type of education and they're awarded the same opportunities as the honor student or the AP, student. So that is the district's and the government's responsibility. So whomever that professional was, that was not the right thing to say.
I agree.
That's
I
that's
agree.
hurtful for me to hear that you had to have that conversation with that person. Um, but as it relates to the grading, so here, I'd be interested to find out how it works for Sophie. But here in Pennsylvania, we follow the rules of the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And the website, you can go on the website and it kind of gives you an update. But we have to do a combination of participation and attendance. So what that looks like is if a student is on a call, how I'm talking to you. You can see my face. I'm engaged with you. If I was, I had an assignment, whether it be online or something paper, I would need to turn it in. That's how I do my test. That's how I do, that shows tangible work, but it also shows that I'm physically present. If a student is on a call and they have the camera off, they're not responsive, and so on and so forth, then they're not present for school. Now, for high school students, that hurts because they have several periods throughout the day. So say a kid comes for first period, but they don't come for second, third, and fourth period. You've missed the amount of hours that you have to get in order to be present throughout the day. When people say that students have to go to school, depending on where you live, depending on what your areas or what your state's regulations are, if kids have to go to school for a certain amount of days out of the year, if you've missed half your class periods, then you're absent for the day. And I think that is the big breakdown, especially when we have businesses open back up and employers demand that their employees come back. Then you have students that are home, sleep, and not paying attention, and you don't have any access to them because their parents are at work. So then as an educator, we're calling parents and texting parents like, hey, can you wake, so up? And they're like, well, I'm at work and I don't have access to this kid. And, it becomes even more difficult because we as educators know that this would not be the case if you were supposed to be in school. Like, say, for instance, it put into a student that goes to high school and goes to first period, but skips, leave school or skips the next couple periods in everybody's lunch, but they're not in their actual classroom, So it's kind of like that. So they get the same like penalty or whatever you might want to call it. But last year they did like almost like a pass or fail because all this started in March, and it was like about the third marking period, and they kind of didn't have a handle on it at all. So to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure what the Department of Education is going to do. We have to grade the students, but at the end, I feel like it's going to be a firestorm because there are going to be a lot of parents that say, well, my son or my daughter was trying, but they couldn't get this and they couldn't get that. And you can't just fail students for things that they're not responsible. They can't handle, they can't take that stuff. So it's a bad situation as far as education. And to be truthful, no one is 100% to blame as it relates to the daily, participation and if a student is getting their education and teachers are trying to get it, the kids are trying to receive it, the districts are trying the best that they can, and the parents are trying the best that they can, and we're all sitting here pulling our hair out because we see that the kids are suffering, and regardless of their grade or what their attendance report says, they're not learning.
Right.
They're not learning, and that's the most hurtful thing as me as an educator. After, hopefully when this is all over and things go back to whatever the new normal looks like, you literally missed a year of education or more, of full education.
I mean, here, what they did as regards to the grading is they gave them an average over what they had previously, which I don't personally think I agree with, because I've got a friend who has got a son, and he said, they sent us an email to say they got the grades. He said, I didn't understand it. There was just loads of letters everywhere. He said, so I had to call my brother, who's head teacher, and he explained it to me. And I said, what did he get? He said, he got all C's, which here, C and above is a pass. And I said, that's really great, right? Because he passed. And he went, well, to be honest, he probably got higher grades than if he'd have actually taken the test, So I think they're doing an average. This is just my opinion. I love to get my opinion out there and probably get shot for it. But it would appear that they're giving an average and adding a little bit on as a compensation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because for them, they're thinking it's probably better for us to overcompensate than undercompensate. So they don't get those parents that will come there and say, well, my child would have passed if they'd have done the exams, if this, if that. So I think they're just, taking an average and sort of going with the best of it. But what I wanted to say was, I love how you're so passionate about your job. Like there are people who like are teachers, and I'm not being disrespectful, but they don't, it's almost like their heart's not in it. Do you know what I mean? They're there for a pay grade and to do the bare minimum. it's very stressful. You always hear there's loads of paperwork, you know, there's rules and regulations and curriculum and all of this. But you actually care about your pupils, and it really shows, and it's so nice.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Like I said, you know, growing up,